I'm really interested in your ideas on governance. You mentioned democracy earlier. I'm in this kind of lost place of agreeing entirely with the libertarians, but also like a reluctant supporter of democracy, seeing its failings at the moment, but don't know where we go with this. I'm not sure what fight is worth happening. I certainly think we should push towards more liberty as government always continues to grow and get bigger. But I'm not like an ANCAP. I'm not full libertarian. And I'm kind of lost in this place in that the European in me is like democracy, Churchill. And then when I come to America, I'm like, smaller government, liberty.
Yeah, I feel that. I wouldn't start a fight with you about this. I think your own feelings are mine. You know, we grew up in the commanding heights of a certain type of democratic form. You know, we're comfortable with the world order the way we understood it for the last 20, 30 years. When I see the war in Russia, for example, I don't really see it as a threat to democracy like the Western propaganda suggests. I see it as a signal of the end of the global potential of this system to spread and control the markets of the world and the governments of the world. I think to chasten these democracies is a good thing. And then I think to think clearly is even better, and to recognize that what we call these democracies is not apt. They're really large-scale oligarchies enforcing something like debt communism.
Yep.
That's why you're in Bitcoin, right? Like we all recognize that, you know, this is something almost worse than the Soviet situation, because it maintains this Republican pronouns, but little else of substance. So
I'm not sure I'd go as far as saying worse than Russia.
Really?
I always think, where would I want to live?
Yeah.
And therefore, which is better and which is worse? And I do not want to live in Russia. And that's why sometimes I laugh at libertarians who live in Sweden complaining at me when they live in one of the safest liberal democracies in the world. And so far, I'm struggling to see any libertarian society outside of Somalia, which is like, it's used as an example, and people laugh at it, but it is a real example of. And everywhere I've seen the breakdown in the rule of law leads to more harm to vulnerable groups, whether that's those who are physically challenged, whether it's those who are from a minority group, minority race, women. It's just, it always happens. And then when people get desperate, they get more violent.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of good that's come out of democracy and the progress of civilization. I'm one of these people who measures civilization on how well it looks after its most vulnerable groups. And I think to want to burn that all down because some governments got a bit shit, I think stupid. So when I look at Russia, I don't want to live there. I love the UK and I love the US.
Yeah.
And I've been to lots of places in South America and I don't want to live there. So I think the most Western liberal democracies for me are the best places to live.
This is historically true. Although, you know, if you look at 1950, if safety and security are your standards, it certainly seems that civilization hasn't delivered a whole lot more safety and security in this country or others since that time. And I wonder why that would be.
I don't know how you measure that and whether that's actually true.
Draw a map and show me where it's safe for a white man to walk around with an iPad in his hand at night in 1950. And then redraw that map for me in 2020 and tell me there isn't a difference.
You wouldn't have had an iPad in 1950, so
let's play a game.
It's a different world. Like I'm not sure that's a fair comparison.
That's a cop out, brother.
I'm not sure it is. Yeah. I'm not sure it is because
if safety and security are your standards, it certainly seems to me that there are fewer and fewer places where you can actually find that safety and security.
There's very few places that I would be nervous walking around late at night in the UK. Very few places. Some parts of London. There's not a single place in the town I live in, Bedford, I would not walk around in.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly comfortable. I don't know about you, Danny, how you feel about the UK. There's not many.
No, and the places that you wouldn't walk around, you kind of know them. But, I mean, that's not an excuse.
But see the question you're asking, it's like, why has it got less safe?
If your mark of the progress of civilization is, in fact, those standards, then did you have progress in civilization? Real question.
Well, it depends what your measure is. If it's where
you told me what your measure is.
No. My measure is one of my measures on progress of civilization. How it looks after vulnerable groups. I care about that, and it's very anti-libertarian because I care about the fact that I'm pro regulation on certain regulations.
Yeah.
Like we have rules that protect vulnerable groups in the UK in certain situations. Now, I think a lot of this stuff's gone too far now,
Yeah.
but I think that is progress. But
At some point, you'll recognize your own internal alienation, and
tell me where I'm wrong.
you know, I'm not saying
Or
you're
where you
wrong,
think
but
I
one
am.
day you might say, "Well, hold up, I feel like a vulnerable group at this point, and where is the protection for me?"
I think
I think I'm fairly protected. I feel very. I've traveled all around the world. I feel very safe and lucky to live
Yeah.
in the UK. Whilst at the same time, I do despise a lot of our government. But I think it's easy to criticize government because they have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
shit job to do with the worst pool of talent to do it with.
This is a valid position, but they often say you don't feel your chains until you try to move them. So, you know, I would encourage more contact with the state, which you're happy with.
Well, I felt them during COVID when I couldn't leave the
Yeah.
country. Danny especially felt it in Australia. Like I'm aware of the risk,
I should say too that I don't believe neither of us are. We should feel lucky because we're not at risk of a libertarian revolution breaking out. And
Well, but you know what? I brought it on this podcast a bunch of times. I
Yeah.
said one of my things that I would like to see from the libertarians,
Yeah.
because I fundamentally agree on paper with what they say, almost entirely.
yeah,
Where I disagree is where the ones who refuse to engage in politics, because
Yeah.
we have this politics is a pull from the left to the right. We swing one way, we swing another. That's just the way it is. The pendulum always goes too far, and you get that counter reaction. If the libertarians are in government, and especially if there's representative democracy, you could have that pull from big to small. But without that,
Yeah.
you go left to right, with government getting bigger, bigger, and bigger.
yeah.
If the libertarians could pull it down and make government smaller, I think that would be one of the things that's really useful. Those people who defend those basic rights.
Yeah, I think we both probably realize that's not possible. And I don't believe that representative democracy has existed in this country, much less others, for a long time. And
Sadly.
I'm not trying to be like, I don't think that's a controversial statement.
No, it's not.
So, it's like I don't want to fight in Plato's cave or something with like these shadows. I don't think that's the world we live in. Like I said, I think it uses Republican pronouns, but it sure is a lot of censorship and restriction and all this other stuff necessary to enforce this so-called democracy.
Yeah.
Right? And I get the suspicion when I hear State Department flacks and all these other people talk about how we got to preserve democracy over in Europe. I feel like you can understand it better if you just replace the word democracy with world dominion, world domination. Oh, okay, it all makes sense to me now. This is an imperial establishment with satellite and client-state relationships, and it's enforced by a world system derived after the Second World War by better, more competent politicians. They're not more competent now. The system itself, to me, seems not worth burning down, but like it can't keep going and giving itself these privileges.